the Arab League summit, the 32nd Arab League Leaders Summit that kicks off today, just started the sessions now with the participation of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah.
كتاب فصلت آياته قرآنا عربيا لقوم يعلمون صدق الله العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صاحب السمو الملك الأمير محمد بن
سلمان bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Crown Prince, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Majesties, Excellencies and Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm honored by His Excellency Abdul Majid Abboun, the chair of the summit, of delivering his speech on the opening of the 32nd session of the Council of the Arab League at the summit level. In the name of Allah, the Lord of mercy, the giver of mercy, and the peace and blessings be upon his prophet, Your Excellency, Your Royal Highness, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, Crown Prince, Prime Minister in Saudi Arabia, Majesties, Excellencies and Highnesses, the last Secretary General, the head of the African Union Commission, the Secretary General of the OIC, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. At the outset, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, and to His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Prime Minister, for the hospitality accorded to us. Algeria has been honored by hosting the 31st session of the Arab Summit during very complicated regional and international circumstances, in addition to the Ukrainian crisis, which increased the polarization all over the world, as well as the challenges, especially in the fields of energy and food security. And in this regard, I would like to reiterate my call to mobilize the funding resources of the Arab stakeholders and the countries in order to help the member states which are in dire need for these assistance, in order to make them able to overcome these complicated international circumstances. At the Arab level, Algeria, during this year, during this month, will host the first food security summit with attendance of experts in order to provide all practical and pragmatic solutions in order to be implemented to support the food security of our countries. Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, Algeria was of the opinion of a union of the stakeholders in the Arab world, especially the Palestinian people who signed the Declaration of Algeria, in which they were committed to implement its stipulations, and we continue our coordination with our brother Mohammed Abbas in order to complete and finalize Palestinian reconciliation. The same motto was embodied by Syrian regaining its position and seat on the Council of the Arab League. And this gives this return a special meaning to Algeria and the Algerian people regarding the massacres of 1945. And I would like to highly commend the return of Syria among its brothers, and I would like to thank all Arab countries which supported the endeavors of Algeria, notably the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, in fulfillment of our historical responsibilities to the Palestinian people and in embodiment of the centrality of the Palestinian cause in the hearts of the Algerian people, Algeria has consecrated its diplomacy in order to serve our central issue. We continued our endeavors at the UN level in order to mobilize support to extend the recognitions of the State of Palestine and its gaining of full membership at the UN in coordination with all brothers in the Arab world. And on the occasion of celebrating the International Day of Solidarity with Palestinian people, we ask the international community to shoulder its historical and political and legal responsibility, as well as ethical and humanitarian one, toward the Palestinian people, not only to put an end to the instructiveness of the occupation and its rejection of abiding by international legislation, but to take also the required measures to put an end to the settlement policies undertaken by the Israeli occupation forces. Algeria also contributed to the practical steps taken in order to adopt the General Assembly resolution in order to mobilize and activate the role of the International Court of Justice and its signing of the regulations adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations regarding the resolution of the occupation forces of penalizing the people of Palestine and its leaderships after the request of the General Assembly of the fatwa from the International Court of Justice. Algeria also rejects all penalties imposed on Palestinians and called for the immediate cancellation of these measures. And in application of the resolutions of the Algerian summit, we held the support of Al-Quds conference in order to consolidate the solidarity with our people in Al-Quds Ashrif, who are subject on a daily basis to crimes in addition to the systematic settlement coercion, while they have impunity and complete lack of any protection at the international level to the Palestinian people. The occupation forces escalated the attack, especially the attacks at the Gaza Strip, which resulted in numerous of the wounded and the martyrs, including children and women who are innocent and peaceful citizens. We condemn in the strongest terms these criminal acts, and we reiterate our full solidarity and commitment to the Palestinian people and call the international community, especially the UN Security Council, to stop these criminal acts which are recurring and systematic, and to ensure international protection for the Palestinian people and allow them to regain their legitimate and inalienable rights, notably the establishment of its independent state according with Al-Quds Sharif as its capital, according to this Arab initiative, which we were committed to it in the Algerian summit. Algeria has always called, especially in the previous summit, to have dialogue as an approach in order to have constructive relationships with the neighboring countries with which we share all the values and heritage in addition to geographical factor. And in this regard, we are a little bit comfortable regarding the approach between Turkey and Iran with the Arab countries, which would contribute to the stability and de-escalation in the region, and would also open the way for peace and security to prevail in the region, especially in the brother country of Yemen. We value all the efforts exerted in order to put an end to this crisis and to lift all the suffering from the Yemeni people. We also assert the need to consolidate solidarity with our brothers in Somalia and Djibouti in the face of the drought in the African Horn for the 6th year in a row, which requires us to intervene immediately in order to avoid an imminent humanitarian crisis to these brotherly countries. Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, Sudan, our brotherly country, has been subject to violation and outbreak of attacks, mutual attacks between the people of the same country, despite our optimism after the framework agreement which was signed to put an end to the transition period, and after the deterioration of the situation in light of the continuing attacks between brothers in Sudan. Algeria served letters to the UN Secretary General and the chair of the African Union, the president of the Comoros, as well as the executive secretary of the IGAD, in order to have quick movements in order to put an end to the bloodshed and to return to the way of dialogue and to put an end to the crisis in Sudan, away from any intervention in the domestic affairs of Sudan. And we call again on our brothers in Sudan to prioritize the supreme concerns and interests of the country and to return to dialogue in order to put an end to these crises and to prevent any further deterioration and bloodshed which would destabilize the security and of Sudan and the entire region. We cannot fail to mention the developments and dramatic changes witnessed in the entire world, which would refer to the emergence of new multipolar system compared to the one-polar system. This complicated situation and its multifaceted repercussions make it imperative on us to consolidate our solidarity as one unified front with the same values in order to have an effective and efficient role to put and shape the new interests in order to maintain our common interests. And we are able and capable to have our deserved position in order to shape a better future for our countries and peoples. From this viewpoint and out of our keenness of the nature of the grave challenges faced by the Arab Summit, and out of our own belief of the virtues of the joint Arab action, I would like to reiterate the necessity to modernize and reform our joint action according to a new approach that will transcend conventional approaches and to prioritize the concerns and interests of the Arab people. While I commend your support for the proposals for the activation of the LAS in the prevention of conflicts and the settlement thereof, and to improve and promote the situation of the youth in our countries, we assert the need to mobilize all our resources in order to be able to face up to the challenges faced nowadays at the regional and international levels. In conclusion, I would like to thank and congratulate my brother, the custodian of the two holy mosques, and to His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, on taking the presidency of the 32nd Arab Summit. I pray to Allah Almighty to provide them with their guidance in order to burden this noble responsibility, and we are confident that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the brotherly country, would lead well deservedly the functioning of the summit out of its keenness for uniting the Arab ranks and to improve and activate the mechanisms of joint Arab action. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of the chair of the 31st Arab Summit, His Excellency Abdul Majid Abbas, I am pleased to invite His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince, Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, to take over the chairmanship of the 32nd Arab Summit, wishing him all the success.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, merciful, we open up the 32nd Summit of the Arab League. Peace be upon His Prophet, Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, His Excellency the Secretary General of the Arab League, distinguished audience, peace be with you. We're delighted to welcome you in your second home, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and we welcome the guest of the summit, His Excellency Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine. We wish success for our efforts. We would like also to thank President of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, Abdelmajid Tebboune, for his efforts during Algeria's presidency of the previous session. We also thank His Excellency, the Secretary General of the Arab League, and all staff for their efforts to serve the joint Arab work. Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, we affirm to our neighboring countries and to our friends in the West and the East that we will continue to extend our hands in peace, benevolence, cooperation, and development in order to achieve the interests of our peoples and protect the rights of our nations. We will not allow that our region turns into fields of conflict. While we turn the page of the past, it is enough to remember painful years of conflicts witnessed by the region that brought suffering to its peoples and hindered development. We're pleased today by the presence of the President Bashar al-Assad in this summit and the passing of the Arab League resolution to resume the participation of the Syrian government's delegations in the meetings of the Arab League's Council. And we hope this contributes to supporting Syria's stability, returning to normalcy, resuming Syria's normal role in the Arab world in ways that accomplish well-being for its people and realize our aspirations for a better future for our region. Distinguished audience, the Palestinian issue has always been the Arabs and Muslims' pivotal case. It comes on the top of the kingdom's foreign policy priorities. The kingdom has never wavered or lagged behind in supporting the brotherly people of Palestine to regain their lands, restore their legitimate rights, and establish its independent sovereign Palestinian state on Palestinian lands on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital, in accordance with the resolutions of the International Legitimacy and the Arab Peace Initiative, as well as other agreed upon international references in ways that achieve aspirations of brotherly people. Your brothers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia dedicate their efforts in supporting Arab issues. We are working on assisting the Yemeni parties to reach a comprehensive political solution to end the Yemeni crisis. Regarding Sudan, we hope that the language of dialogue becomes the basis in order to maintain Sudan's unity and its people's security and capabilities. To this end, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia welcomes the signing of Jeddah Declaration by the two conflicting sides to commit to protecting civilians and facilitating humanitarian action, hoping that the focus during the talks is on effective ceasefire. With the cooperation of brothers, friends, and the international community, The Kingdom continues exerting humanitarian efforts and activating relief channels for the brotherly people of Sudan. It is our pleasure to take this opportunity of the presence and participation of His Excellency Zelensky, President of Ukraine, in this summit, to reaffirm the Kingdom's position to support any effort to contribute to reducing the intensity of the crisis in Ukraine and to prevent any deterioration of the humanitarian conditions. The Kingdom renews its readiness to continue to mediate between the Russian Federation and Ukraine, supporting all international efforts aiming for solving the crisis politically to achieve security and peace. Distinguished audience, our Arab world possesses cultural and civilizational attributes, natural human resources with a strategic location that links continents, qualifying it to have an advanced and leading position at comprehensive development for our countries and peoples in all fields. Peace be with you.
Now, I call upon His Excellency Ahmed Abul Khait, the last Secretary General, to deliver his speech.
Excellency Prince Mohammed bin Abdulaziz, Crown Prince, Majesties, Excellencies, Royal Highnesses. I start my statement by extending gratitude to the custodian of the two holy mosques, Majesty King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, and to you, the Highness, and through you to the people of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the warm welcome and hospitality accorded to us since we arrived in this country. We congratulate you on your assumption of the 32nd session of the summit, and I pray Allah to guide you to the best for our community. The international situation is passing through one of these dangerous moments in contemporary history, and we see struggle between huge countries at the expense of small countries. Therefore, the Arab countries during this period have no choice but to stick to the interest of the Arab people and to abide by coordination amongst its in a way to allow the Arab nations to face this situation. The crises in the Arab world have yet to find their solution, and there are millions of Arabs that remain displaced. And today, another problem is rising in Sudan, with people paying high prices that has been brought upon this beautiful country. The period has come for this problem to stop, and this is the time to embrace peace and to stop bloodshed in Sudan and to ensure the safety of its national institutions. I call upon that the Jeddah summit should be an opportunity to stop bloodshed in Sudan and to correct the mistakes made in the past. And people should prioritize the interest of the country and not the interest of personalities. We are trying to stop bloodshed and losses in Sudan, where we would have no victor or vanquished. The Arab crises are facing serious situation compared to the previous situations we saw in the past. This is an opportunity that we should seize in order to activate Arab solutions for these problems. In Syria, we welcome the President Bashar al-Assad after Syria has returned to the Arab fold, and this is an opportunity that cannot be wasted, and an opportunity to solve the problems the country is facing, whether through the causes or the solutions to solving the problems, or in the manifestations and the ramifications of the problem. And we are hopeful that Arabs will have their contribution in finding solutions to the multifarious problems in Syria. Mr. Chairman, the time has come. The Arab region continues to face interferences from the outside, and this interference continues to cause problems. Today, we have indexes and signs that things are going to change. I want to welcome again the agreement signed between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Islamic Republic of Iran in March last year. The relations with all neighbors must be based on the respect of the principle of good neighborliness and non-interference in internal affairs. These are basic ideas and principles in the UN Charter, and they are principles that must be held by all countries. Palestine remains an issue that its people alone should not be allowed to bear. The Israeli authorities continues to carry out killings. I salute the perseverance of the Palestinian people wherever they are, and I want to tell them that the activities of the occupation of Israel must be faced by decisive actions from the international community. Mr. Chairman, there is action going on in the Arab fold, and we are trying to, the Arab are going back to their active role. The summit in Jeddah is a summit of renewal, and it represents a new page for the Arabs to assume action on files that have been left for the other people before. Today, we are on the threshold of a new engagement with crisis and how to solve them. We have to face this with all seriousness in order to preserve the security of the people and its people, and to preserve its future. I wish this summit every success. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank His Excellency Ahmed Abul Ghait. I now call upon His Excellency Vladimir Zelensky, the President of Ukraine, to deliver his speech. You have the floor, sir.
شكرا جزيلا.
Land. Anyone who defends his native land from invaders, and anyone who defends children of his nation from enslavement, every such warrior is on the path of justice. And I'm proud to represent such warriors and the entire Ukrainian people. Ukrainians has never chosen the war. Our troops didn't go to other lands. We do not engage in annexations and plunder of other nations' resources, but we will never submit to any foreigners or colonizers. That's why we fight, and I'm sure all your nations will understand this, our main emotion. And I'm also sure all your nations will understand the main call I want to leave here in Jeddah, a noble call to all of you to help protect our people, including Ukrainian Muslim community. With me here is the Honorable Mustafa Dzhemilev, the leader of the Crimean Tatar people, one of the indigenous peoples of Ukraine, whose home is Crimea, the center of Muslim culture in Ukraine. For centuries, the Crimean Tatar have been and should remain an integral and strong part of the Muslim community of the world. But Crimea was the first to suffer from the Russian occupation. And until now, most of those who are subjected to repression in the occupied Crimea are Muslims. We already have a positive experience with Saudi Arabia regarding the release of our people captured by Russia. We can expand this experience, and even if there are people here at the summit who have a different view on the war on our land, calling it a conflict, I'm sure that we can all be united in saving people from the cages of Russian prisons. Unfortunately, there are some in the world and here among you who turn a blind eye to those cages and illegal annexations. And I'm here so that everyone can take an honest look, no matter how hard the Russians try to influence. There must still be independence. And I want to thank Saudi Arabia. I want to thank the majority of you for supporting foreign international positions and the UN Charter. Dear participants, your people have already seen that Ukrainians are people of peace, of real peace. In 2021, we made a priority. Ukraine opens to your people and the people of Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait got to know Ukraine. And I'm happy that your tourists were able to see the splendor of spring in our capital, in Kiev, and the majesty of the Carpathian Mountains. I believe that one day your people will come back also to see our Crimea, Ukrainian Crimea, free from Russian occupation and humiliation. Our relations are also tied by the education of tens of thousands of Arab students in our universities every year. And it really is an honor for us that children from Morocco, Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, Algeria, Libya, and Tunisia went to Ukraine for education. With you, we fulfilled one of the most honorable tasks in the world, food security. Ukraine traditionally supplies your countries with wheat and other agricultural products. We were glad to welcome the investments of the Arab nations, as well as the investments of Qatar in the port infrastructure. First, the pandemic, and then a more terrible virus, relationships. And I'm more than sure that none of you will agree to surrender a third of your country to the invaders. And I'm more than sure none of you would watch without a fight how foreigners steal the children of your people. Hundreds of thousands of our children are deported to Russia, separated from their relatives. And there in Russia, they are trying to teach our children to hate their natives. And I am more than sure that none of you would admit the military occupation of a nuclear plant to use it to blackmail the world with nuke disaster. Look at how much suffering the long-term wars have brought to Libya, Syria, Yemen, how many lives have been wasted by years of fighting in Sudan and Somalia, in Iraq and Afghanistan. Everyone who adds to suffering by his new aggressions, everyone who sows enmity, everyone who wants to bring back the old days of invading empires that didn't count with the will of independent nations. Every aggressor goes against the world and will be cursed by the people. And I greet everyone who is ready to join us on the path of justice. Ukraine proposed the peace formula to end the war. You can see how it works on the example of food security, one of the points of our formula. Even when the war is thrown into our home, we do everything so that the homes of other peoples also survive. We managed to launch the Black Sea Grain Initiative and partially lift the Russian naval blockade of our ports. This stabilized food markets and helped many, including the nations of the Arab League. The implementation of another point of our peace formula will also help many, the return home of all captives and deportees. Each of the honorable delegations was given a document in your language with 10 points of the peace formula. Please, you can choose the point to have that you consider appropriate, and I will be grateful to each of you who will choose exactly the direction of rescuing people held in Russian captivity. So I invite all of you who respect peace to join the implementation of the peace formula and thus to reduce enmity and wars, suffering and evil. Russia is weak. We beat it even when it has more weapons in their hands. Its aggressiveness doesn't come from strength, but from the understanding that the time of empires has passed. That's because the time of free independent nations will never end, and Ukraine proves it. I wish you peace. I invite you to cooperate directly with our country without any intermediaries, and may our and your strengths act in a coordinated manner for the peace and good of people of all nations. And please listen to the Crimean Tatar people, listen to the Muslims of Ukraine. May the Almighty protect our soldiers. Slava Ukraini. Thank you.
الأمين العام لمجلس التعاون الخليجي السادة
أشكر
والسيدات
فخامة الرئيس فلاديمير زيلينسكي على
إنه لشرف
كلمته،
عظيم
والآن
لي
أدعو معالي
أن
السيد
أقف أمامكم
موسى
اليوم
بكي رئيس
ممثلا
جمهورية
للاتحاد
الأفريقي
الإفريقي
يلقى
وشعوب
كلمته،
القارة
فليتفضل.
أخا ونصيرا للأمة العربية وتضامنا معها في الظروف الدقيقة التي تمر بها. يسعدني كذلك أن أعرب عن جزيل الشكر لخادم الحرمين الشريفين ولولي العهد المفدى بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الأمين العام للجامعة العربية صلى الله على نبيه الكريم خادم الحرمين الشريفين وكذا الاستقبال السمو ولي العهد الضيافة الكريمة التي فوزنا بها في هذا البلد العزيز دول الأعضاء في الجامعة العربية معالي السيد الأمين العام للجامعة العربية هذه في ظرف بالغ الدقة إقليميا وعالميا. السيد الأمين العام لمنظمة التعاون الإسلامي تستمر الحرب الروسية الأوكرانية السيد الأمين العام المدمرة للإنسان والاقتصاديات العديدة من
Donc, nous, on s'intéresse à la stabilité, à la paix des
critical junction. It's my pleasure as well to express my heartfelt thanks to the custodian of the two holy mosques and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and the last Secretary General for this brotherly invitation served to us and for the hospitality accorded to us since we arrived in Jeddah and the Holy Lands of Saudi Arabia. Your summit takes place at a very critical juncture at the international and regional level. At the international level, the Russian-Ukrainian war, which has affected negatively the economies of many countries, not only in Europe, but all over the world, continues. It threatens the entire world with regards to the energy sources, food, and stability at the Arab level. The Israeli attack against the Palestinian people continues, and the degradation and the humiliation extend in all its formations, and the flocks of extremists, settlers occupy various lands in the midst of suspicious silence of the entire world, without providing protection to the people of Palestine, who have the right to establish their sovereign state with Al-Quds as its capital. On the 75th anniversary of Nakba, we reiterate our condemnation of this incessant attack of the Israeli occupation, and we call upon the entire world to provide protection to the Palestinian people and to enable the two-state solution to be implemented on the ground. Also, the crisis in Libya ramified and the intervention increases in it. And despite all the efforts, we are on the verge of having another round of violence without having the settlement required, and to have peaceful reconciliation and preparation for fair and transparent election without no marginalization. In the African Union, we are preparing for the all-encompassing Libyan reconciliation conference with a strong coordination with the various stakeholders in Libya. In conclusion, Sudan has been subject to an outbreak of personal affairs and interests and keeping to the power. The African Union has mobilized its capacities in 2019 and helped our brothers in Sudan in order to have a transitional period in a balanced manner. However, the coup of the 25th of October 2021 stormed this experience, and this doubled the efforts to stick to power and reversion to violence to put an end to the crisis between all stakeholders, whether civil or military. The African Union has called for the tripartite efforts of the IGAD, UN, and African Commission started since the outbreak of the current violence to mobilize all efforts at international level and regional ones. We believe in the African Union that this intervention has been the reason for prolonging the conflict. And in this context, we welcome the efforts of Saudi Arabia, the United States of America, to put an end to this attack and to have a ceasefire and provide assistance to the affected Sudanese people. Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, we believe that the conflict in Sudan shall not be militarily resolved, and it's not in the best interest of the people in Sudan or the region to have such a resolution in a military way. Those who think that are delusional and they don't care about the effects of violence in terms of the destruction of the country and its infrastructure and the demise of the people who are innocent and civilians. The adventure of violence is a great risk to all the region in terms of incessant catastrophes. We call for the formation of an international bloc in which the African Union, the UN, the LAS, the IGAD, and other stakeholders in Sudan take the lead in a central manner in order to promote the peace talks and to complete the political process in order to have a transitional government that would face up to the current challenges and prepare for transparent and fair general elections. We call upon this summit to take a resolution in this regard which are applicable. And there is no doubt that your resolution in this issue and on other issues of relevance shall have a positive impact on what the Arab African Summit will decide, which shall take place in this blessed country during this year. I wish you all the success. May Allah provide you with guidance. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I thank Mr. Musa for his statement, and I hope that people keep to the allotted time. I now give the floor to Mr. Brahim Sentaha, Secretary General of the OIC. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Peace and blessings be on the Prophet. Custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, King of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Chair of the 32nd session of the Council of the League of Arab States, Your Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, Mr. Ahmad Abul Ghaid, Secretary General of the League of Arab States, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm honored to congratulate King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, the custodian of the two holy mosques and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for chairing the 32nd session of the League of Arab States Council at the summit level. I am confident that this will significantly enhance the effectiveness of the collective Arab action. I want to express my gratitude to the chairman of the previous session, chairmanship of the previous session by the People's Democratic Party of Algeria. I sincerely thank His Highness Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Mr. Abul Ghaid, the Secretary General of LAS, for their invitation to attend this summit. I want to emphasize the deep connections shared by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the League of Arab States, including their shared values, beliefs, challenges, and goals. We aim to strengthen these bonds to benefit our nations and fulfill the desires of our people for peace, security, and prosperity. Custodian of the two holy mosques, Your Majesties, Excellencies, and Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, this summit, I seize this opportunity at this critical juncture in which the Arab and Islamic world faces challenges that require us to strengthen cooperation and solidarity and intensify efforts and coordination. The Palestinian cause, our central cause in the Arab and Islamic world, suffers from the continued obstruction of the horizon of a political solution and the escalation of the brutal Israeli action against the Palestinian people, Al-Quds as its capital. This is an implementation of resolutions on international legitimacy and the Arab Peace Initiative. Another issue of deep concern to us is the crisis is Sudan. Since the first day of the outbreak of armed clashes in Sudan, we at the OIC have called for an urgent and permanent ceasefire and for resorting to dialogue to resolve differences. We welcome the joint Saudi Arabian and American initiative to start preliminary talks between the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces representatives here in Jeddah. We also welcome the signing of the Jeddah Declaration on the commitment to protect civilians in Sudan, which we hope this will be a first step towards ending the armed conflict once and for all in a way that enhances security, peace, and stability. From here, we urge the Sudanese brothers and sisters once again to prioritize the supreme national interest of Sudan to preserve its unity and institutions and achieve the aspirations of its people for security, peace, political stability, and economic development. Custodian of the two ulemas, Your Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, we in the OIC are keen to support all efforts to remove the causes of tension, overcome past obstacles, and achieve peace and security and stability in Yemen, Libya, and Syria. Our shared priorities are the territorial integrity and safety, and preserving their people's interests. We also call for strengthening solidarity with our brothers in Somalia to help them overcome the difficulties. We look forward to strengthening the bonds of brotherhood and cooperation amongst the countries of the Arab region, as we look forward to intensifying coordination between the OIC and the League of Arab States to solve common issues and enhance cooperation in the economic, scientific, cultural, and humanitarian fields, empowering women and youth, combating terrorism and extremism, addressing hate speech and Islamophobia, and consolidating the values of tolerance, understanding, and peaceful coexistence. We also look forward to strengthening solidarity with our brothers in the Sahel region and the Lake Chad Basin, which share close historical and geographical ties with the Arab world, to help them overcome the security and development challenges. The OIC follows up on the joint Arab action with great interest. It is with great pleasure that Saudi Arabia's presidency of the Arab Summit coincides with the presidency of the 14th Islamic Summit. We are confident that this dual presidency will give new impetus to cooperation between the two groups, coordinate efforts to address common issues, and contribute together to finding appropriate solution to international challenges within the multilateral framework. We look forward to the success of this summit, and I wish you all the best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I thank Mr. Hussein Ibrahim Taha, and this brings us to the end of the opening session. Now we're going to start the working session, and I ask everyone to keep to time. I will start with King Abdullah Al Hussein, King of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan.
In the name of Allah, the Lord of mercy, the giver of mercy, and peace and blessings be upon his prophet, the kissing King, my brother, His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, the last Secretary General, Your Excellencies, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. At the outset, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to my brothers, the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince Prime Minister, for hosting this summit and for the keenness of Saudi Arabia to deepen Arab cooperation. I would like also to thank our brothers in Algeria for hosting the previous summit. My brothers, dear audience, and in this regard, I would like to refer to the trio of cooperation between Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt in the form of sustainable development through economic and industrial cooperation, which includes UAE, Bahrain, and UAE. In addition to continuous cooperation projects with our brothers in the GCC countries, as an example of the extensions we can have. Dear brothers and audience, the cause of Palestine has always been our central cause, and we shall not fail to undertake our endeavors to have just peace, which shall not take place unless our brothers in the state of Palestine have their independent state with Al-Quds as its capital on the basis of the two-state solution. Security and peace cannot take place with the continuing establishment of settlements and the confiscation of lands, the displacement of Palestinians from their own lands, and destruction of the remaining opportunities for the two-state solution, which would give the Palestinian people their inalienable rights. The other option would place the entire region on the path of continuous conflict. And there is nothing more important for us than respecting the current historical and religious situation for the Muslim and Christian sanctities in Al-Quds, the city, for whose protection we consecrate all our capacities in order to maintain its Islamic Christian identity out of the Hashemite custodian on these sanctities. Dear audience, we have always warned against the continuation of the Syrian crisis. Our Syrian brothers paid a heavy toll, and its repercussions reflected negatively on all of us. And we welcome today the return of Syria to the Arab League as an important step that would contribute to the end of this crisis. And we assert here the importance of consolidating the political process which started from the Amman conference and was based on the Jordanian initiative and the efforts of Saudi and Arab countries to put an end to this crisis and to address the humanitarian and political and security repercussions of the crisis for the refugees to return to their home. Dear brothers, the audience, the stability of Iraq means the stability of the region, and its security is part of our national security. And in this regard, we support the steps undertaken by the Iraqi government in order to regain the Iraqi situation and the position in its Arab Middle and to support its prosperity and sovereignty over its territories. And we look forward to build upon the first Baghdad conference and the second Baghdad conference in order to strengthen regional cooperation with Iraq. Dear brothers, dear audience, there's no way to be slow in taking the opportunities available to us in order to achieve the best interests of our region and people. Therefore, we need to have more periodic Arab conferences and meetings at the highest level in order to have economic integration in our region and unite our political and security efforts. In conclusion, I reiterate my thanks to my brother, the custodian of the Holy Mosque, and to the government of the brotherly country of Saudi Arabia, and for their dear people for hosting this summit. And we pray to Allah Almighty to provide us with guidance to achieve the best for our countries and peoples. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.